Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you may be joining us. My name is Aida Araissi. I'm the founding CEO of the Bilateral Chamber, and I am very pleased to bring you another wonderful iteration of our leadership series today, featuring His Excellency, the Minister of Minerals and Mines from Equatorial Guinea. We're very pleased that you could join us for what will be a very interesting, very substantive discussion. And as always, we encourage you to submit your questions so that we can make it as interactive and as interesting for everyone. Today's session is moderated and hosted by Dr. Adel Chaouch, member of our advisory board, chairman of our Africa Insights initiatives. Dr. Adel Chaouch is the CEO and president of ShaMaran Petroleum Corporation, and previously led Marathon Oil Company's interests in the MENA region and in Africa. In particular, I want to say regarding his links with Equatorial Guinea, is he was instrumental in establishing the mega gas hub and directed the opportunity team that successfully re-entered Gabon, also through operated and non-operated interests in the deepwater exploration off the coast of the Gulf of Guinea. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Chaouch so we can have as long of a period of time with our Excellency, the Minister. So Dr. Chaouch, if you could take it from here.
Thank you, Aida, for the introduction. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Join Aida also in thanking you all for participating at this Leadership Insights series. Today, we will be talking about the remarkable transformation of Equatorial Guinea. I would like to make a couple of brief remarks on this country before we hear from our keynote speaker, the Minister of Hydrocarbons and Energy. In less than 2 decades, Equatorial Guinea has witnessed a stratospheric rise to the top 5 oil and gas producing nations in sub-Saharan Africa. It joins the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, also known as OPEC, and has played a key role in the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, also known as CEMAC, which is equivalent to the EU for Central Africa, with 6 neighboring countries holding the same currency. Right now, Equatorial Guinea was able to establish a well-developed oil and gas sector, thanks to mostly US exploration producing companies that have been very active in the country since the early days of the industry rise. Though it is among the top producers in the region, the sector has room to grow for further development and exploration. Additionally, the country has further potential in other sectors for investors and companies that are present here, with interest possibly in mining, tourism, infrastructure, development, as well as services. It is my great pleasure to welcome our friend, the Minister of Mines and Hydrocarbons for Equatorial Guinea, His Excellency Gabriel Obiang Lima, to this virtual event to talk to us about his country. But allow me first to introduce him to you. His Excellency dedicated his career to the oil and gas sector of Equatorial Guinea, a sector that he joined immediately after graduating from the US with a degree in economics. In 1997, he joined then the Ministry of Mines, of Industry and Energy as Secretary of State for Mines and Hydrocarbons, and held a number of positions of increasing responsibilities, including Presidential Advisor on Hydrocarbon Matters. He was appointed as Minister of Mines and Hydrocarbons for Equatorial Guinea in 2012, a position he holds since then, providing him with the ability to shape the industry to its current successes. He is also active on a number of key state entities, currently serving on 3 main boards: Petroleum, the national oil company; Sonagas, the state gas company; and CEGESA, the state power company. He is widely regarded for his leadership guidance that brought the country to prosperity through a strategy of innovation and renewal, leading a sector that is the main economic driver for this country. The minister dedicated his career to growing the industry and promoting his country worldwide, which is exactly what he's doing right now, and welcome for that. Efforts that not only brought significant investment to the oil and gas sector, but to other sectors, allowing the country to have rapid development of modern infrastructure with new power generation, new airports, roads, even new cities in Equatorial Guinea, all while promoting local content and local companies be part of this historical transformation. The minister is largely acknowledged for enabling the entry of Equatorial Guinea to OPEC, making it its 14th global member and the 6th African member of this organization. He's also been widely recognized for his contribution to the industry, to his nation, and to Africa, receiving a number of awards and honors. I will only mention the most recent one. Pre-pandemic, in 2019, he was honored among the oil and gas icons at the Petroleum Industry Award event as the Outstanding Minister of Hydrocarbons. Having personally been associated with Equatorial Guinea since 1997, working in those days with Raytheon and later on with Marathon, I lived in the country for over 5 years, and since then I had over 100 trips visiting the country and interacting. I had the great fortune of working directly with the minister over the years on a number of key issues, and I found him to be of unrivaled commitment to his sector, a man that is very direct and has a contagious optimism. I would like to leave you with 3 initiatives that are not spoken of very often, but I think has led to great transformation under his leadership. The EG gas development and regional hub. I remember the days as far as back as 2005 when we met in his office talking several times over what is the vision of gas development. Well, let me tell you where it is right now. The first flare elimination in Africa took place on Bioko Island with gas being used for LNG production. The fastest LNG ever from development to FID, from FID first to first tankers was also in Equatorial Guinea. And as of recently, the regional gas hub is a reality with gas from Alen feeding into the world-class assets of Punta Europa on Bioko Island, managed by Marathon with partner ShaMaran. On capacity building, where the support of the minister allowed for thousands of young Equatorial Guineans to be trained worldwide, from as far as Asia to here in Texas, creating a new generation of engineers, technicians, and managers that will probably lead the industry to the next decades. Last but not the least, the malaria control project that took the country from being the most endemic in Africa to a model of malaria control and saving thousands of lives in the country. Without further ado, allow me to open the floor to our friend, Minister Lima, for his concluding remarks. Minister, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Adel, for that introduction. First of all, I would like to thank Aida and the Bilateral Chamber for giving me this opportunity to be able to represent my country at this Zoom webinar. I also would like to thank all the participants, all the different companies who have registered to be able to hear to me and allow me to have this platform in which I can discuss a little bit, not only what in Equatorial Guinea we have done, but also what we are planning to do for the future. This is clear, a very great platform. Bilateral Chamber is very important, and for everybody who knows Equatorial Guinea, you will understand the link that we have, especially with the US, and especially the city of Houston and the state of Texas. But clearly, I'm here to talk one more time on what Equatorial Guinea is doing, what the new emerging opportunities. So with that, I'm going to go a little bit first explaining on what we have been doing. And I would like to first start being very clear that there is no doubt that 2020 and 2021 has been a challenging year. And everybody had been conscious, especially because of the pandemic. Regarding COVID, what Equatorial Guinea we did very early and whenever before the lockdown was to be able to work very close with the industry. We put in place labs that they were able to, that's one of the first and biggest lab in Africa to be able to do tests, PCR tests that we're still doing in country. We also were very quick in taking measures to be able to protect our asset and also employees in the oil and gas. That's why through the pandemic, we have had very low impact in our installations regarding the pandemic. We also were very active to be able to help the industry. The COVID was not just a threat for healthcare, but also was a threat for the industry. And one of the key things that we did for our investor was to be able to give them 2 years of extension that allow a lot of the companies that they were a little bit stressed financially to be able to postpone some of the drillings that they were supposed to be doing. We also were able quickly to have on priority and not be constrained because of liquidity matter too. That also allowed that in Equatorial Guinea, we were able to, in a way, to maintain and keep a lot of the jobs during the lockdown. So very few Equatorial Guinea lost their jobs during that period of COVID, especially oil and gas. We also were very keen on not allowing our project to stop. And we were very keen on continuing the project, especially the landfill unitizations, that during all the pandemic, we continue doing the work. We continue with all the service companies and we're very successful, clearly with Noble Energy, now ShaMaran, in which we were able for the first time to be able to bring additional gas from another field to the world-class installation that we have in Punta Europa. We were also being able to conclude a life extension project with Zafiro to be able to make sure that the infrastructure in the Safiro field will continue with the production. We also were able to continue with the free well drilling campaign in the Ceiba field by Trident. So clearly, this was one of our achievements that we were able to continue and not just be completely stopped because, again, a constraint of COVID. We did also achieve an outstanding production output, both for methanol, LPG, and LNG. And the amazing thing that very few people are aware is that we never have missed any of our cargoes since the pandemic started, and we were able to both produce and at the same time being able to continue with the production without any constraints. Now, clearly, I am not participating in this webinar just to talk about what we did during the pandemic. It's very important for the different participants to understand what's our plan, what we are planning to do, what is Equatorial Guinea thinking to do, definitely, and what we call it the post-pandemic that we expect by 2022 to be there. And this is one of the key things. There's going to be 4 major matters that we're going to be discussing. The first one is we are starting working on a new petroleum law. Now, the petroleum law is very important, clearly, because the first petroleum law that we have, it was 1986. The second one was, the current one is 2006. And everybody will recognize from 2006 to today, there have been many changes in Equatorial Guinea. We have fields that have already matured. We have been focusing on gas. And it's very important that in the law, those are there. But the other critical part, and this is the key one that I want to make sure that everybody hear loud and clear from the minister and for us, it's very important that we actually put in place fiscal incentives to be able to attract investment in the country. We need to be able to evaluate what are our fiscal terms and what can do so investors can decide to invest in Equatorial Guinea rather than other places. The second issue that we're going to be working very hard in 2020 is going to be a restructuring and fusion of our 2 national companies. We have a gas company and an oil company. This is Sonagas and GPetro. So we're going to be working to create one single national company that it will be able to make a more efficient and more concentrated with the human resources that we already have. Clearly, the third part is going to be key, and this is gas. We're going to be continuing with the effort of the gas mega hub. Clearly, we know that the decade of gas is now. We have been discussing with our neighbors in Nigeria, neighbors in Cameroon, and even Equatorial Guinea, even Gabon, with the importance of utilizing gas. Gas is going to be critical for the Gulf of Guinea. We already are working on establishing the first field. This was the Aleng. We are talking with our neighbors in Cameroon, in the Douala basins, also in Nigeria. And we do believe that we can be able to capture some of the stranded gas in some of the places that have been for decades flaring, to be able to utilize to produce methanol, LNG, and also make sure that it's a revenue, not only for whoever is producing, but also for the parties who actually provide the gas for us. And clearly, the third issue that we will be working very hard for next year is going to be able to work on new data that are going to be critical for the launching of our license round that definitely will happen after we promulgate and ratify the new petroleum law, that we tend to fast track it, work with all the parties and all the ministry and all the government to make sure to be one of the more proactive, more pro-business petroleum law in the Gulf of Guinea. So these are clearly for my keynote speak that I want to be able to relate to everybody. I will probably in the discussion be able to discuss more and explain more, but this was clearly the key message that I wanted to, in a way, to express and explain to everybody. So with that, Adel and Aida, I want to thank you one more time, allowing me to give this platform for me to be able to explain, again, these new emerging opportunities in Equatorial Guinea. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for being very direct and giving us the really key, I guess, breakthroughs in new vision and strategy for evolution for Equatorial Guinea. So we're very pleased that you're sharing with us on this platform. I do have a number of questions, if you don't mind. Specifically, I talk about the pandemic. You know, we are very pleased and impressed to hear that the first and the largest lab was in Equatorial Guinea, and then clearly EG is, I think, in the top tier now of nations with very strong controls on the situation. Any insight on how the variant is being dealt with and its possible impact on the country and also on the industry?
Okay, I mean, like happen everywhere. The pandemic has have their positive part and the negative part. Clear the negative, everybody's aware where it is. It's the health matter. You know, people have been infected, some people have died, and it have an impact on the economies. But on the positive part that I can say regarding Equatorial Guinea, you know, once the pandemic happened and the lockdown, there was a lot of restraint of traveling of both national and expatriate. So we were in a situation in which many expatriates who were working for years in Equatorial Guinea were not able to travel to the country. So we were in a situation in which nationals needed to operate the fields and the operations. And this was one of the more interesting parts, that actually thanks to the operations of the national, both in the ExxonMobil operations, Marathon operations, ShaMaran operation, and even Trident operations, because of the constraint of the expatriate, the national were able to pick up that restraint of having no expat and being able to do the production. And if through all those periods we have been able to continue with production, we have been able to continue doing working, that proves that the human resources and the local content in Equatorial Guinea have proved that we have actually got into the level. We are not the same country that before we were saying that there were not people in Equatorial Guinea able to do operations. Clearly, it wasn't just independently. The internet and communication have helped to be able to follow the operations. But what it has been very good and learning process has been that we have been able to operate the operation. Nationals have been able to solely operate a lot of the operations. Now, clearly, the economic part, it has been hindered like anybody else. Economies have slowed down. We have been in a situation in which our budget have been changing because of our projection have changed completely. But we do believe that we are coming into the post-pandemic. And one of the key things that we have been very good is proving that with pandemic or which a pandemic, we are continuing with investments in the country. And that definitely has been the positive part, that we have been resilient on protecting the asset and the employees in the industry and continue both exploring and producing.
Thank you, Excellency. Clearly, EG is open for business. And I think one of the first elements of the strategy shared with us is possibly new petroleum law. Can you please share with us and maybe more color around what are the specific incentives that current investors and possibly new investors would be interested in looking at as they approach further investment in Equatorial Guinea?
Okay, first I would like to start saying that our petroleum law is from 2006. And anybody who knew Equatorial Guinea in 2006, like you, Adel, you will know that we were not in the same level that we are right now regarding human resources, regarding local content, regarding transportation, infrastructure, port, airport, the rest, and even industry, and even knowing the country. So, and clearly gas was important, but it was not really the key thing. So if you actually go from 2006 to 2021, you will realize that we are in a completely different situation. We have fields that already have been amortized, some fields that have to go into abandonment. We are talking about areas that we're gonna have to start going into operations. We are focusing in gas. Gas is going to be very critical. And in our 2006 law, there was nothing about gas. There's no clear. So anybody who decides to come into Equatorial Guinea to invest in gas, the first thing we'll ask, you know, what is the law saying about gas? And if you look at the law, there's nothing about gas. There's nothing about methanol. There's nothing about incentive of gas. There's nothing about drilling on gas. The same thing happened with local content. And this has been some of the things that have created a lot of bureaucracy in the industry and operations, because right now the role of different ministries, the role infrastructure is not clear. So for us, this is the better platform that we can do. Put all the government together, evaluate what we have been doing, evaluate what we need to be able to attract more investment, and definitely for them to do a law that is actually a hybrid law. Now, what I believe that it has to be done, has to be a law that is a win-win. It has to be a law that when the oil price go down, it benefit and protect the investment like it protect the government. But also when the price go up, it benefit the companies like also benefit the state. And the current situation is very stagnated. So with that, that allow that flexibility, because it makes no sense when the oil price go down that we start pressuring in the company. We need to be able, with the law, being able to give them incentive to be able not to have all those payments. But at the same time, when the price goes very high, we need to be able to have that windfall that it was not expected. because clearly the real return of investments are very important. Whoever comes to Equatorial Guinea need to know from day one to wherever they live, they're gonna be able to have this real return. And laws like that are going to be allowing to do that. The other key things that are very important is that we are doing the major project. This is the gas mega hub. In a gas mega hub, you are going into upstream, midstream, and downstream. And you need to be able to regulate all of them. There could be companies who say, I don't want to go into upstream, I want to go to downstream. So what is the law saying about it? And there is nothing that the law says. Now, some of them, they could say, I want to go into midstream, or maybe I want to do into services. The other issue is also, what are we doing to attract investment regarding fiscal incentive? Clearly, we have been from 2006, and everybody will know, 2006, the price was around $70 to $80. Right now, things have changed. So we need to be able to look about what do we want? Do we want the cash up front, or we want the jobs? So clearly, this is going to be something that we're going to be putting. I am very confident that all parties will be very happy. Government will be happy, service company will be happy, and IOC will be happy. And I can guarantee you after that law, Equatorial Guinea will be the better or the best country for anybody to come and invest, because it will be very clear, it will be very incentive, and at the same time, any investment that you do in Equatorial Guinea will be recovered because it will be into that law. So that's clearly the things. We are still working on it. We will definitely consult with all the parties, from companies, service companies, consult on the rest. But clearly, you know that in Equatorial Guinea, we like fast track. So this is not going to take 2-3 years, and can guarantee you that this is going to be that by mid-year, will be concluded, and we'll be sharing with everybody our new and probably the best petroleum law in Africa.
Thank you, Excellency, for this vision, and certainly you guys like fast track. Now, on the business of gas. Gas is becoming front and center. You know, right now in Europe, the prices are the highest ever, if not in recent history. And the main second pillar of the strategy is around gas. The regional gas hub is becoming a reality with the first step with Alain. You have briefly touched on the further engagements around the region. So I have a couple of follow-up questions on that. What is the confidence in the outside partners, other countries being willing to participate their stranded gas into the regional hub for the gas to be processed, you know, in Punta Europa? And how do you see the timing and the sequence of events? Which country comes first?
Okay. Well, the first thing that we did, and this was starting 2 years ago, we actually on the entire Gulf of Guinea, in which in an area of 300-kilometer radius from Punta Europa, we're able to evaluate the different resources that actually we can look at it, including Equatorial Guinea. When we talk about the gas mega hub, we are not just talking about other people's gas. We are talking about our own gas. And anybody who look the map of the Gulf of Guinea, they will see that there is a large number of flare gas in Nigeria. There's a large number of flare gas in Cameroon. But once you look into Equatorial Guinea, there's no flare gas. There's the flare gas or the gas in Alba and Zafiro. So clearly Equatorial Guinea have a great potential of gas inside. But clearly, if we need to look into the short term, all that gas has been for decades been flared in Nigeria, in Cameroon. These are stranded gas that have been not doing anything. It's too far for the onshore, too expensive to do enough. So one of the key things that we have done is say, okay, Equatorial Guinea have key aspects that are very, one, it have a world-class processing installations. And in that processing installation in Punta Europa, we process methanol, LNG, the LPG, and other resources with gas. So even if you bring the gas, you can decide what do you want the gas for. The second thing is that we have 3 key hubs, and this is the way we have structured the gas mega hub. We have the Alba hub. This is infrastructure already offshore, where Marathon is already pumping from Alba to Punta Europa. We have the Alain hub. This is the infrastructure that ShaMaran have already, that is already pumping gas from Alain all the way to Punta Europa. We have the Zafiro hub. This is infrastructure already that ExxonMobil have some of the stranded gas, but also it's a middle point that can have gas coming from Nigeria to be able to have a point to go there. So clearly, the way we have a structure is that it's not just one mega hub, it's several hubs. And depending on the willingness of the different parties, the hub are filling. At this moment, in the Douala Basin hub, and this is where ShaMaran is, we already have done Alain. We are talking with our neighbors in Cameroon to be able to utilize Jojo and Yolanda to a cross-border. We are doing a very good. Recently, I was with President Biya in Cameroon, in which he was very willing to be able to discuss cooperations. SNH is also discussing. It's very much advanced on the technical part. We just need to make sure that the border issue is done. Clearly, the other hub is the Alba hub. And if you look into the Alba hub, you will see the Rio de Rey area. This is the stranded gas that is in the Bakassi area, and the rest also have an area where less than 14 kilometers connected to the Alba hub. We have fears like Etienne. But then you also have the Safiro hub. And the Safiro hub, clearly, the great opportunity is all the stranded gas in Nigeria. I just came from a trip from Nigeria to take also a message to His Excellency President Buhari that also he support, because Nigeria have already said that this is the decade of gas. So NNPC is already on board with us. They already are happy with the structure that we have presented. There are already several indigenous Nigerians who are willing to actually transport the gas from Nigeria to that. We are talking about free 40 TCF in Nigeria to bring. And I can guarantee you that's going extremely fast. And definitely that will be a competitive between the hub of Safiro coming from Nigeria and the hub of Cameroon. Clearly, this is why the new law is very important. Anybody bringing gas, he would say, where is the legal framework that it can defend us? So we need to make sure that we create a law that clearly protect investment, because we are not just talking on buying gas. We are talking about some of the parties who are interested to actually transport the gas to be able to be processed. Because you have to remember one of the key things for Equatorial Guinea, we are not just interested in exporting the product. We are not just interested in the liquidity, making the cash. We are interested in the job creating. We need to become a key processor. And clearly the biggest advantage that anybody who brings gas to Equatorial Guinea is we already have the infrastructure. This will be the cheapest cost of any processing that you will do. And clearly everybody knows that the best LNG process in the world is actually being processed in the Punta Europa facility in Marathon. And if somebody doesn't believe it, it can ask BG, it can ask Shell, it can ask Bechtel, and they will tell him that the minister is right. That's what we're doing. Clearly, all the negotiation, the decade of gas is now. We are focusing on gas because one critical thing that I want to insist, gas is critical for the development of the Gulf of Guinea. We recently, in 2 weeks, exported our first methanol to Gabon. Gabon has been buying methanol from Holland. They have a huge timber industry processing plant. So now Gabon knows that they don't need to buy it from Holland. So Gabon is going to sign with us and start working on a long-term supply of methanol to do that. The next key client is Nigeria. Nigeria is buying all the methanol from Holland, buying all the methanol. So they know that Equatorial can have methanol. Another critical one is LPG. Nigeria has been buying LPG from different places. Equatorial Guinea is a clear source of LPG. And the beauty about LPG, it requires associated gas. So anybody who has gas and can actually process it, we can take the dry gas to do LNG, but then the liquids, we can send it to whoever needed. If we need to dedicate to all our LPG to go to Cameroon and to Nigeria, just because they cooperate, that's actually a political deal. They send us the gas and we send them the final product, but also the LPG that is required again for the population, because Equatorial Guinea is limited regarding population with that. So clearly this is for us, when people ask about transition of energy, this is definitely what we're doing in transition and everything. We are transferring from depending too much on oil to go all the way to gas. So this is a little bit on a gas mega hub. And this is why we believe that also we need a law that take into account that possibility of investment in gas. And clearly one key thing, we need the technology, we need the service company. We know in the US, they have a lot of technology on transforming on gas. So definitely that's gonna be interesting to be able to go into the next stage.
Thank you, Excellency. This is very impressive, and clearly it makes sense. These inter-government agreements around providing LNG and LPG are probably of mutual interest, and probably will accelerate your process of moving forward in the region. You talked about the decade of gas. You talked about that as a key element for the energy transition, energy evolution. And that's a question I had in mind here. This is becoming the flavor of du jour, around the world. In any of the investment forums, the conversation always invariably goes around this transition here. Sounds like Equatorial Guinea has its first step. Any further insight about other technologies, maybe around carbon capture, around carbon offsets, with a large presence of forest, and any special incentives, for companies to bring in the technology, particularly the US ones, to help with this evolution?
Well, clearly, we do believe that this law is required for that reason. We need to be able to put in place those opportunities. I'll give you an example. We recently received 2 key proposals. And one proposal was to be able to capture the gas in some of the fields that we have already discovered, to be able to utilize it in what they call it bit mining. And this is to be able to have platform in which we put in place, what they call it, turbines, to be able to have another platform in which they have all this Bitcoin. I am not an expert, that's why I cannot give you an explanation, because what they need is power. And what they're saying is that rather than get additional of the gas to be able to bring it to Punta Europa and do LNG, there's another industries. And the industry to be able to capture that gas offshore or onshore to be able to use in a way that we can do it into Bitcoin mining. Now, clearly there is other technologies that we do believe. We are discussing the possibility of hydrogen, but one of the key things that we are focusing, and this is why because we are very keen on focusing on priority, is gas. We do believe that more technology and more resources can be used in gas. Gas is definitely big. One key technology that we do believe that we are already doing is the possibility of being able to export small-scale LNG to the regions in the Gulf of Guinea. Right now, if anybody asks me, Excellency, can you export LNG to Nigeria? Or can you export LNG to Cameroon, to South Africa? We can do it. Why? Because they don't have a terminal. But all of them have power plants that work with diesel and gas. Now, if small-scale terminals are built, and then we can do what they call ship-to-ship, we will be able to export our LNG to any places, and what is called is the virtual pipeline. So we do believe that that's actually a clear new technology can be used. Many Africans need the methanol, need the LPG, need the LNG. We need to be able to use that. So that's why we do believe that investment more in processing in gas is critical, because there's a market, and that market requires, again, that technology. So those are the things that I do believe that are going to be very important going forward. But again, I insist, the transition is not just on renewable. We also are talking about using LPG. I mean, right now, switching from LPG to coal or to wood is helping a lot of African develop. And methanol, I already mentioned how Nigeria and Gabon can benefit that Equatorial Guinea have a methanol plant. And of course, LNG to Africa also, it's clearly that. So in conclusion, gas is the future. And this is the future for Africa. And we need to be able to utilize more of the gas to be able to have that development on a lot of the countries who actually require them to have them.
Thank you, Excellency. The strategy is very clear. It does make a lot of sense to, at least as a first step, to go to gas, reduce the footprint from coal and other conventional methods. I want to switch to another subject, maybe not immediately in oil and gas, and would like your thoughts to share with the audience about any projects planned for investment in other sectors, for example, in mining or infrastructure that you would like to announce to the audience.
Well, I think my title is very, very clear, or what's my responsibility. It's not just petroleum. I'm the Minister of Mines and Hydrocarbons, even though I focus 99% on hydrocarbons. This year, I have been dedicating around 20% on mining. I think the results of the 20% are being shown at this moment. First of all, mining is very critical for us. And I have to say the experience of oil and gas has been very helpful. One of the key things that we learn in the oil and gas is that it's very important that the government invest in information, data. Rather than just get the companies and the company do all the seismic, do all the work, it's very important that the government come and do all the data. So when the investor of mine comes, they already have all the data. So what we did for almost 2 years, we have been investing in data. We did the seismic, we did aeromagnetic, we do the drilling on the well. So when we actually awarded our first 2 mining contracts, when the company came, they told us something. They said, Excellency, what we have done in 1 year in Equatorial Guinea, it took us 4 years in another country that I'm not going to name because, I'm very pro-African, so I'm not going to diss any of my other brothers. So it took them 4 years to do it, and what it took to do 1. And right now, Equatorial Guinea, and actually I'm traveling this Saturday, we are about to go, we have jumped from the exploration phase to almost the exploitation phase. I'm going to a first installations that are going to start the commercialization testing for gold. So I could say that probably by the time I go to the World Petroleum Congress in Houston, not only I will announce about what is going to be the new law that I'm working, but also we'll be announcing that Equatorial Guinea is becoming not only an oil and gas exporting country, but also a gold exporting country. Clearly, we do believe that this is a great future, a great sector for us, because we do have the aspect that are required for mining. We have the infrastructure. That's the key one. We have the port, the airport, the electricity, the highways, the construction. We have the human resources. People already trained in oil and gas that have been there. And clearly, we already have the experience on doing huge investment projects. So those are the things that give us a lot of advantages for us to be able to advance on that. So clearly, in February next year, I'll be participating at the Mining Indaba in Cape Town, South Africa, and where I'll be explaining what Equatorial Guinea had been doing in mining during the pandemic. And I can guarantee you that a lot of people are going to be very surprised, because we have jumped from almost doing nothing in mining to become an exporter of gold and possible in another mineral resources that I will announce in February. That definitely will help, that we have gas, we have the energy to be able to not just produce it, but also process it in country.
Thank you, Excellency. I had a couple of questions, but we're receiving very interesting questions via the chat. If you don't mind, I would direct a couple of them to your attention. One of them specifically around the midstream or the methanol and gases. If there's any plans for petrochemicals, polyethylene and other forms of midstream activities in the vision of the transformation.
The answer is yes. We have been looking at this for a long time. The problem of doing petrochemics in their own installation that we have is that a lot of those petrochemics need to be close to the market. So this is what we have discovered. This has been discussion that we have with Marathon, with APCOM. We decide, yes, we can do all this in Punta Europa, but where is the market? We need to ship that product all the way to the market. So what we have decided to do is use the resources, for example, methanol, and then work to be able to have that petrochemical installation close to the market. For example, in Gabon, they already have that processing plant. So the only thing we do from Equatorial Guinea to Gabon is to transport the methanol. So the same thing happened to other places. So one of the critical things is the transportation distance. So what we are thinking is not just thinking just surface on Equatorial Guinea. We are thinking how actually we can work with neighboring countries and with market for them to do the processing in their country, close to the market, but we do supply the process, of course, participating. This is why our fusion of our national company is going to be critical, because our national companies need to work like real companies. They need to be able to have assets. They need to be able to have the capital, not just dependent of the company. And they need to be able to invest not only in Equatorial Guinea, but also out of Equatorial Guinea too. And this is the new trend that people and countries are doing to make sure that national oil companies don't just be able to have movement in their own country. They need to be able to move in different. And just to stress on the national company, I have been instrumental also in encouraging that in the CEMAC area, national companies, for example, in Equatorial Guinea, G-Petrol, SNH in Cameroon, Gabon Oil Company in Gabon, and the rest, they can try to start having more discussion between them. Because ministers talk more than even national companies in our neighborhood. So we need to make sure that national companies talk more than ministers.
Clear, understood. Your Excellency, a second question from the audience, coming back to the first pillar, which is the new petroleum law. The question was around, is there going to be consultation with the current operators and other parties in country?
One of the things that we have been very historically known is that we never give surprises to our people, nor IOCs. So whatever things happen has been already consensuated and it has been already discussed with them. So clearly this is not going to be a law that, our IOC is going to be running to get a copy to know what's in the law. This is going to be consulted with the companies. The company will know what it is. And of course they will know that will be fair. There will be something that maybe they won't like it, but also there will be something that they will be incentive to them. But clearly one of the key things on the law is to reduce bureaucracy. That's a very critical thing. Reduce bureaucracy and more clarity. Clarity is very important. Investors are coming to the country, they are doing activity and they are not clear. They're asking, Excellency, how do we have to do the custom? Excellency, how we have to do that? That needs to be clear. Minister of Finance, Minister of Labor, they all have to be in the law. They have to be, each one are creating their own different law. And this is why that clarity is going to be very important, because that's going to allow work to be very efficient and going forward. So this is clearly something that we are working with. It's not going to be surprises. It will be consultation with IOCs. Clearly somebody coming new, it will be something new for them. But I can guarantee you there's going to be something that is going to be very exciting. It will be something different. Like I say, it will surprise a lot of people because it will be something new that clearly it will be to become more competitive. So that will be the reason why you will invest in Equatorial Guinea and not in other country, in a neighborhood or in the rest, because clearly they will give you a lot of incentive more than them.
Thank you, Excellency. It sounds like it's very promising and certainly good surprises to come. So I'm sure we'll hear about them before the end of the year, hopefully. Your Excellency, in closing, can you share with the audience and then the global platform any closing thoughts, any messages around investment for Equatorial Guinea?
Okay, I want to, like I said one more time, to thank everybody who have decided to join us to discuss oil and gas. And for people who know me and know the Minister Gabriel, I am a type of minister that I'm very frank. I'm not very apologetic about what I do. I work for the shareholders of Equatorial Guinea, and this is the people of Equatorial Guinea. Oil and gas is our bread and butter. This is our resources. We do believe that it's very important for our development that we continue doing that. Anybody who decides and said that Equatorial Guinea should drop oil and gas, it's going to be an enemy of Minister Gabriel, because we are not going to drop it very soon. We're going to continue. I will be in Cape Town for the Africa Energy Week to be able to defend oil and gas in Africa. We do believe that Africa is one of the less explored areas, is the place that can more benefit. We have a huge population that need to be able to have power, they need that resources. We do believe that also we need to utilize it. The same thing that developed countries have done it. They have built their economy because of oil and gas. So they should be the one dropping it. I mean, maybe Norway, if they decided that they should drop the oil and gas, and I would be welcome them. But Equatorial Guinea will need it to development of our country. Clearly, at the same time, I will be in Houston. Houston is my second city. This is the city that have made Equatorial Guinea what it is. I'll be at World Petroleum Congress. If anybody wants to protest for me to go there, I apologize. This is my bread and butter. I'll be there. I'll continue drilling oil, doing my processing gas. If you don't want to do it, don't come to Equatorial Guinea. If you want to do gas, come to Equatorial Guinea. The same thing, the message for all the independents from the US who decided to drop Gulf of Guinea and go back to the state because they were doing the shale gas. Now that things are changing, you know where to come. Equatorial Guinea is the place. We're going to have a law that definitely it will attract your investment. You have your return back. And anybody who knows Equatorial Guinea, you know that wherever you have invested in Equatorial Guinea, you always recover. And if you don't believe me, ask ExxonMobil, ask Marathon, ask Chevron, ask Amco, EGLNG, Trident, the rest of the company working here, and they will guarantee you that this is the best place to invest. Wherever you invest, you will recover, you'll be happy, and the guys are straightforward. This is Equatorial Guinea. This is what we have been doing for many years. We need to adapt to current situation. Gas is going to be very important. One of the critical things that we need drilling. Drilling is very important. We need to keep drilling, and clearly upstream, wildcat, independence, people who really wants to be the cowboy like Walter was, we are welcome them. This is why the law is there too. There's going to be aspects that benefit those independent on those wildcatters who say, listen, let me try to go to Equatorial Guinea. Let's see if I have luck. They drill one well, they're successful, and then we bring the measures. So we need to be able to be hybrid, to be able to bring different parties. So again, so anybody who knows the history of Equatorial Guinea knows that we're very aggressive. We are very flexible. We know our people. We know who is what they do, and we don't like bureaucracy, going straight forward. And this is the biggest advantage of working with small countries. The big countries, we are able to move faster, and it's much easier to negotiate with us and get a deal. So with that, I want to thank everybody. Like I said, I'll be in Cape Town, I'll be in Houston. So if anybody wants to hear more, they need to go to Cape Town in Africa, and they need to go to Houston, where I'll be, okay? So with that, Adel, I want to thank you for that. Aida, it's a pleasure to be at the chamber. Anytime you need my support, you need my work, I will be there. And please do not be hesitant for anybody who said that you should drop oil and gas. Again, the World Petroleum, I know that you work with them. Minister Gabriel will be in Houston. I'll be with all the delegation. If you guys want to put me in 10 days quarantine, be 10 days quarantine, no problem. You just need to make sure that you give me a lot of T-bone steak, you know, and I have a lot of Netflix, internet free, and hopefully I will make sure that I'm with my wife so we can have a lot of discussions rather than just being stranded and I'll go crazy. But I know that you will make sure that I am not in 10 days quarantine because I'm already vaccinated. And clearly, I'll go straight to the World Petroleum Congress and I'll do what the government of Equatorial Guinea pay me for, is to talk about oil and gas, mining, and make sure that I can bring investment for the people and create jobs in Equatorial Guinea.
Your Excellency, you're welcome to Houston. We look forward to seeing you there. If you get stuck quarantined, you're welcome to our home. We'll host you here, there. You'll have a safe place. Joke aside.
I'll remember that, Adel. If I go quarantine, I'm going to your house.
And joke aside, thank you for sharing these breakthrough news on Equatorial Guinea. We're glad to have them on this platform. With that, I turn it over to Aida for closing the session.
Reiterating, thank you so much for your candidness. Thank you for your passion for your country. Thank you for your vision for job creation, for regional cooperation, for transitioning to the clean fuel, for gas, for the decade of gas. There's so much here. Thank you for focusing on return on investments. You're a savvy person, a savvy minister, and we'll welcome you in Houston. We'll have another in-person sort of, interaction. We look forward to that. And you can be sure of plenty of steak, T-bone steak, you said, and plenty of Netflix. Yeah, just in case, but hopefully that won't be the case. So I want to thank, of course, all of our members, our participants, and we will share this recording with everyone. There's a lot that you announced, and we're very excited and honored that you spent this morning with us. And have a good afternoon and a good evening. And thank you, Dr. Chaouch and Adel, for your stewardship and participation with the Chamber.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.